Dr. P. Shanthi, Associate Professor of PG and Research Department of Botany. Now we are going to see the informations about the mode of nutrition in fungi. The learning objectives are this to learners able to understand the nutrition mode of fungi. They can able to differentiate parasites, saprophytes, symbionts and predaceous fungi. The learners can also explain the mechanism of nutrition of different groups of fungi. Next we are going to see the mode of nutritions. So, as we know that the fungi are achlorophyllous organisms, so they are not able to prepare their own food material. They always depend upon other organisms to procure their nutrients. Hence, they are named as a heterotrophic. So, these heterotrophic, how it nourish the nutrients, so that's only we are going to see in the mode of nutrition. So, what is a nutrition? Nutrition is a process of procuring nutrients from the substratum. So, that's only we are going to see in an elaborate way. So, before we enter into the mechanisms, we should know what are the requirements of a nutrients. So, nutrients, we know that it is one of the basic elements which provide the energy to do the work as well as for the all the vital activity. So, the fungi also need some nutrients. First, we should know what are the nutrients it needs for its growth and development. So, those nutrients is named as essential elements. So, these essential elements are broadly categorized into the organic and the inorganic substances. So, these are the major elements which is needed for its growth and activity. So, the essential elements is must for its activity. Without these elements, it can't do their work. The fungi can't do any activities. So, these elements are named as the essential elements. So, these essential elements are broadly classified into 4 types is macro elements, micro elements, vitamins and growth factors. Apart from these 4 factors, the one more factor also is more important, that is the physical factors. So, the physical factor also is play a major role in the survival of the fungal. So, let us see one by one. First, macro elements. What is a macro elements? From the term itself, we came to know that macro means it's a large amount. The elements which are needed in a large amount is named as a macro elements. So, when compared to the other factors. So, these elements include carbon, nitrogen, hydrogen, oxygen, sulfur, potassium and magnesium. So, these are needed in an enormous amount because we know that carbon are the building block of all the living organism. So, they are needed in a large amounts, hence they are named as a macro elements. So, these macro elements they get it from the different sources as for examples, carbon it get from the carbohydrate, examples we can say from the glucose or fructose, like that it will take the carbon source, like that it will take the nitrogen from the nitrates and ammonia and hydrogen and oxygen also it is taken from the water. So, like that from different sources it will take up the nutrients and it will do its activity. Next we move on to the micro elements. So, the micro elements that also it define that micro means it is a meager amount. The elements which are needed in a very minute amount is named as a micro elements. So, these elements includes iron, zinc, copper, cobalt, magnesium and molybdenum. Next we will see the vitamins. So, the important vitamins needed for the fungal growth are thiamine, biotin, pyridoxine and riboflavin. Next we see the growth factors. Apart from this also need the growth hormones is auxin and then cytokinin for its activity. Then last one is a physical factor. Even though all the nutrients are available, if the physical factor is not in the proper condition means they cannot survive, they easily perish. So, the physical factors play a major role in the survival of the fungal organisms. So, the physical factors needed for its growth are temperature, oxygen, high oxygen level, moisture content and pH. It's more important. The low temperature, high moisture content, high oxygen level and then it is neutral pH is favors its growth. Next we will see the mode of nutrition. As we know that they are the achlorophyllous plants, they purely depend on other organisms for its nutrients. How it procure the nutrients? So, depending upon the mode of nutrition, these fungi are classified into 4 categories. The first one is a parasite. So, what are parasites? Parasites are the fungi which derive the nutrients from other living organisms. So, those fungi are named as the parasites. So, these parasites may or may not cause disease to the host tissues. So the parasites are, again it is divided into two types. One is a obligate parasite, another one is a facultative saprophytes. What is obligate parasite? Obligate parasites are the true parasites. They live only in the living host. Suppose the host is not available, means they will die. They cannot live in that conditions. So they are the true parasites. Next is about the facultative saprophytes. What is a facultative saprophytes means? Here these fungi, it live as a parasite. That means it will live on the other living organisms. Suppose if the living host is not available, means it will live on the alternate one. Alternate means the dead and decaying organic matter. It live as a saprophytes. Until it get the correct host, it will live as a saprophytes. Hence, it is named as a facultative saprophytes. That means, in simply we can say it is a partial parasites. Okay. So, next we move on to the saprophytes. Saprophytes are the fungi, one which derive the food material from the dead and decaying organic matter is named as a saprophytes. Here also the saprophytes are, again it is divided into two types, is obligate saprophytes and facultative parasites. Obligate saprophytes means is a true saprophytes. It live and procure the nutrients only from the dead and decaying organic matter. Whereas facultative parasites, it live as a saprophytes. Suppose if the nutrient is not available in the dead and decaying organic matter, it live on the other living host for time being. Again, if the humus soil is available, means again it is converted into the saprophytes. So they are named as a facultative parasites. Now then it live as a saprophytes. Next group is a symbionts. So symbiont is a group of fungi. Actually, it is an association of a fungal and then algal partners. Symbionts are the organisms in which the two entirely different group of organisms, they mutually grow together and then they get benefit. So those organisms are the symbionts. So in the symbionts, the best examples we can give lichens and then mycorrhizae. In lichens, the association is between the alga and fungus, whereas in mycorrhizae, the association is between the fungus and the higher plants. Again, these mycorrhizae is divided into three categories based on the mycelium, up to what extent it live in the plant systems. That is ectomycorrhizae, endomycorrhizae and ectoendomycorrhizae. Then next one is the predaceous fungi. These are the carnivorous fungi. They eat up the microorganisms and small organisms as a food. Mechanism of nutrition. The whole mycelium in a fungi, they have the ability to absorb nutrients. Are part of the mycelium, they involved in the absorption of nutrients. So first we will see about the parasitic fungi. So the mechanism, even though it live in the different host, the mechanism is different for each type of a fungi. So for first we will see for the parasitic fungi. So in parasitic fungi, the mycelium of the parasite is rarely ectophytic. That means it rarely will live on the surface, but frequently it will live within the host cells only. So within the host cells also, the hyphae, it will live in two different places. Number one is a intercellular hyphae, another one is a intracellular hyphae. Let's see the details. The first one is intercellular hyphae. The intercellular hyphae means the hyphae will ramify in between the cell surface. That is the intercellular hyphae. So in this hyphae, first the spores, when it fall on the surface of the host plant, it started to germinate and produce a small tube-like structure that is named as a germ tubes. Then that germ tube tip, it get bulged and forms a small vesicle-like structures. That structure is named as aprisorium. So that aprisorium helps to fix the mycelium to the host tissues. After it firmly fixed to the host tissue, it secretes the enzymes and it pierces the cell wall, then it protrudes its small mycelium thread-like structures to the host cell. So that hyphae is helpful in the infection, hence it is named as the infection hyphae or infection pick. Then these hyphae penetrate and it is thrive in the intercellular space. Yes, Now it come to the intercellular space. Next process is how it procure the nutrients from the cells. So that is the important one. Now after it residing in the intercellular space, it secrete the enzymes upon the plasma membrane of the plant cell, that is a host cell, because the cell sap only contain the nutrients. So it is secrete the enzymes upon the plasma membrane. The plasma make the plasma membrane to more permeable. So as a result, the solutes which is present in the protoplasms will be leak out. Then the leaked substances will be absorbed by these mycelium and it will thrive well in the intercellular space. Next we see about the intracellular hyphae. Okay. So, similar to the intercellular hyphae, in intracellular hyphae also, the spores is started to germinate by producing the germ tube, then it produces aprisorium. From the aprisorium, through the infection hyphae, it infect the host cell and it reach the intercellular space. After it reach the intercellular space, it secrete the enzyme and it make a hole in the plant cell. As a result, there is the mycelium, it protrude towards the inner side of the cell, and then after it enters, it get bulged vesicle-like structures, or it forms a finger-like projections. So these structures are named as a haustorium. The main function of haustorium is to procure or to absorb the nutrients and give it to the mycelium for its growth and development. Next we see about the saprophytes. We know that saprophytes live on dead and decaying organic matter. Yes. So here it procured the nutrients from the dead and decaying organic matter. So everything is not in the suitable form in the dead and decaying organic matter. So hence we see how it procured the nutrients from the dead and decaying organic matter only we are going to see now. Yes. Okay. So here the hyphae or rhizoidal hyphae come in intimate contact with the dead and decaying organic matter and it absorb the nutrients, that is the mineral ions, whatever is available in the simple form in the soil, it will absorb it and it will grow. Suppose in case it has an complex molecules like proteins or carbohydrates or lipids are there, means it is secrete an extracellular enzyme. So these enzymes, it act on the substratum and it break down the complex molecules into the simple one, then later on it will be absorbed by the mycelium. So this is a mechanism, this is behind the mode of nutrition in the saprophytic fungus. So those are the saprophytic fungus, they grow on the dead and decaying organic matter. The part of the fungus, it procured the nutrients from the substratum, the remaining part is started to produce its reproductive structures. Okay. Next we move on to the symbiotic fungi. So symbiotic fungi is a fungal, it is an association of entirely two different group of organisms. So the first example is a lichen. So in lichen, the association is between the alga and a fungus. So what is the role of alga? Here the alga is present within the hyphae of a fungus. The main role is it has a chloroplast and chlorophylls. So it do the photosynthesis, prepare the food material. So the food is, whatever is prepared is given to the fungal. So meantime, the fungal partner, it provide the resident as a home to the algae. You just see that the algae are present within the fungal hyphae. So it provide the resident to the algae, then it gives a protections to the algae. So in between the fungal mycelium, it keep the algal zone. So it protect the algae from, Next thing, with the help of the rhizoids, it absorb the nutrients and given to the algal forms. So these are the three functions it do. So here the duty of algae is to prepare the food material, because they have the chloroplast and chlorophyll pigment. They do the photosynthesis and prepare the food and given to the fungal partner. Meantime, the fungal partner, it do the three important functions. The first one is it to provide the shelter to the algal forms. The next one is it to protect the algae. On either side there is a fungal layer is there. In between the fungal layers only the algae is there. So it gives a protections to the algae. The third function is with the help of the rhizoids, it absorbs the nutrients from the substratum and it is given to the algae, both nutrients as well as minerals it provides to the algae. Next we will see the mycorrhizae. Mycorrhizae, the term itself it defined. Myco means it is fungus, rhizae means it is root system, that is the rhizoids. So here the association is between the fungus and then root system of a higher plants only. So here the association is these mycorrhizae are different types. It is ectomycorrhizae, endomycorrhizae and ectoendomycorrhizae. Okay. So first we will see the ectomycorrhizae. Ecto means it is in the outer layer, that is the surface layer. So here mostly some angiospermic as well as gymnospermic plants, they don't have a root hairs. So the root system, mostly the angiospermic plants, gymnospermic plants, what they have the root system is it's helpful to penetrate the soil substance. They are not involved in the absorptions. The absorption process usually carried by the root hairs only. So in some higher plants there is no root hairs. So to give the benefit of those things only God is created, and then it gave the support of a mycorrhizae. So these mycorrhizae, it grows just around the root systems and it forms a net-like structures that is named as a heartic net. So they only involved in the absorption of minerals and nutrients available in the soil and it is given to the growing plants. Actually those layers are named as a mineral zones. It is a zone of a mineral ions it contains. Okay. So these the ectomycorrhizae, it live up to, it penetrate up to the cortex regions and then it live in the intercellular space. It is not penetrated into the cells. It live only in the intercellular space, that also only up to the cortical layers only. Whereas the endomycorrhizae, endo means it is within the host cells. So here it penetrated the host cells. You just see from the outer side, it enter into the host cell and then it procure the nutrients as well as the nutrients whatever is absorbed, it is a transferred. That was the endomycorrhizae. What is the ectoendomycorrhizae means? It is both, it live in externally as well as internally. So that is the ectoendomycorrhizae. So in the endomycorrhizae, if you see that it's mostly they belong to the phycomycetes only. Here the fungal component, it belongs to the genera Endogone as well as the Rhizophagus, whereas the algal forms, it's mostly the non-fungal components, it belongs to Poaceae, Rosaceae and Leguminaceae and Gymnosperms. So most of the important type of is vascular arbuscular mycorrhizae, that is VAM fungi. Here the mycorrhizae, it produce in some form it produce vesicles, that is named as a vesicular mycorrhizae. That is vesicle like structure. If it produce means it is vesicular hyphae, or otherwise it produces just arbuscular structure, that is a finger like projection structures it produce means that is named as a arbuscular fungi. So but some mycorrhizae they produce both, that is a vesicular and arbuscular fungi, so they named as a VAM fungi. The next one is a predaceous fungi. What is a predaceous fungi? These fungi are also known as a carnivorous fungi, so which derive their nutrients from trapping and eating microscopic and other minute animals. Yes, so more than 200 species have been described under this category and they all belong to the Ascomycota and Basidiomycota only. So what it do அப்படினா, after the prey is captured, the hyphae penetrate and it quickly destroy that, and after destroying it convert the complex molecules into the simple one. From the simple one it take up the nutrients. You just look at that, these are the microscopic organisms. After it attached to that, it will fully wrap the organisms and within a few hours it digest everything and it take the nutrients for its growth and development. These figures are showing how it trap the organisms, minute organisms. So many apart from that, many of the predaceous fungi they produce adhesive substance over the surface. The entire mycelium, it has a adhesive substance in order to trap the passing animals. Small insects or something, it's pass over on the surface means when it touch on this, unfortunately without knowing it touch on that surface means it get attached to the surface, then the myceliums grow on that and trap the full insect and digest within a few minutes, and it get the nutrients from that. So those fungi are named as a predaceous fungi. So these fungi, they get the nutrients from the microorganism as well as the other minute animals. So these are the possible questions from this topic. I hope you have a clear idea about the mode of nutrition of different groups of fungi. So we know that the fungi are living as a parasites, saprophytes, symbionts, predaceous fungi, but we do not know how it procure nutrients. Now you have a clear idea how it digests the complex molecules and it take as a food through the absorptive mode of nutrition. Thank you.